Welcome to the podcast of Terrace Consulting.
Welcome to a new episode of the Terrace Consulting podcast. I have the pleasure today of welcoming Niki van den Broeck, which is an expert on managing the revenue of events. Usually we talk about revenue when it comes to rooms. I know we had a lot of guests in the podcast talking about revenue, but usually, as I say, it's purely rooms. So we have a completely different view today coming from the events management and how to maximize the revenue on that department. So Niki, how are you?
I'm doing great today, Pablo. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
My pleasure. So it's my pleasure. As I was saying, thanks for your time. And as always, I want to start first before we go into the events revenue management. How has your career been so far? Because mainly you've been working in this area, and also why did you choose hospitality of all industries?
It's a good question, I'd say. It's been an interesting path, probably. I started, my career or when I finished high school, so to speak, I had a very broad interest field, meaning that I was interested in many things, but it was also difficult to really pinpoint what it was that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So in uni, I actually studied educational sciences. I wanted to become a teacher, maybe, I thought. And quite early on in that education, it was clear that teaching wasn't going to be it for me. So I started working in different restaurants, bars during that study. And I really saw, that I had, step one, just a lot of fun doing that. I met many great people. I loved the hard work, the team spirit, the feeling of accomplishment after a very busy shift. And then it struck me that hospitality was actually what I needed to be doing. So I did finish that education in educational science, and right after graduating, I enrolled in hospitality management. So did another bachelor's. I had a traineeship in meetings and events, so that's where that love and that passion for meetings and events came from. After graduating, I got the opportunity to start working as a restaurant manager. So I was a restaurant manager first in Antwerp. I opened a new restaurant. It was a new outlet of a boutique restaurant chain, which was extremely interesting. I think opening something new or building something from scratch is always an amazing experience. It's hard work, but also, again, it pays off. But after the bricks were there and everything was in place, I felt like I needed a new challenge, and especially the restaurant management part. I had been doing that, for a couple of years before there as well. And then by sheer coincidence, I was introduced to the founders of Get Into More. And I dropped everything and I joined them on their mission to bring meetings and events revenue management to hotels.
Which is where you are at the moment. So next question was going to be, if you had a mentor in your career, either education or work, who would it be?
Well, I can think of two people, and that would be the founders of the tool. But before starting my path with Get Into More, I did not have I did not have a lot of experience in revenue management or in hospitality, just what I learned in school and what I like to experience in hotels, of course, as a guest. So everything I know, I have learned from them, and of course, other, established industry experts. But it's really by having discussions and very broad discussions with the two founders, Vasilis Siropoulos and Peter Brouwer, that I learned what I know now. They share over 50 years of experience, so that makes up for me being more or less a young person in this industry.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're a few years also altogether to theirs. So Get Into More, you mentioned the name, I've talked about events, but how will you describe it to someone who's never heard about Get Into More?
Yeah, well, we have a very clear goal, and that is to help hoteliers give meetings and events a central spot in the commercial strategy. Too often you see that revenue management, it's so focused on hotel rooms, but many hotels have a very large meetings and events department. It makes up for a decent amount of total revenue, and it's a bit neglected. So we say, come on, guys, invest some time and effort there as well, optimize that revenue stream, and you'll see that the impact on total revenue is enormous. So what we do with Get Into More is that we've split this up in 3 pillars. Some of the pillars have a finished project already or a finished product already. The others are let's say, on our roadmap or in development. So first pillar would be the business intelligence tool, get into more as we all know it. And that helps hoteliers take data-driven decisions and be very strategic about meetings and events. Then a second pillar that we will release this summer is an inventory management intelligence. That is an AI-driven real-time pricing and lead scoring tool. So it's an extremely cool project to be working on. It's talking to, well, many people in meetings and event sales. We discovered that one of the most difficult decisions to take is whether or not you're going to accept an inquiry. Of course, in current times, the answer is likely going to be yes, but when demand returns, well, you have a limited inventory and you want to fill that in the most profitable way. And we often compare this to playing Tetris. You want the blocks to fit as good as possible. You don't want empty spaces in the blocks. So that's what you're trying to do. And this AI is going to, well, give you an advice whether or not to accept or not accept an inquiry, if it's better to wait on for something better or to accept and price the one you currently have. So that's super interesting. A third pillar, somewhere down the line, would be a market intelligence, because that's also extremely helpful if you want to give meetings and events the attention it deserves. But everything we do and everything we will do will always be focused on that super interesting revenue stream of meetings and events revenue.
Mm-hmm. Which I agree with you, sometimes neglected. It's like, I've seen you saying it online, it feels like it's just ancillary revenue, but it's not. It can be a massive chunk of revenue.
Yeah, exactly.
For hotels. Mm-hmm.
I think if you speak about ancillary revenue, and well, that's a different topic and it's also interesting. I think bottom line, revenue is revenue and revenue should be optimized. But I always have a difficulty if people say meetings and events is ancillary revenue. I think ancillary for me is the icing on the cake. And if you look at meetings and events revenue, well, for a good business hotel, it would make up 20 to 30% of total revenue. That's no longer icing. That's already a big piece of the pie. Absolutely,
yeah, true. So what is the day in the life of Niki on a daily? Let's say in normal circumstances, you forget about the pandemic. So what does your role entitle? What do you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, so for 3 years now, a little over 3 years, I joined the company to help with all things commercial. So I'm the first person you will meet when you inquire something about getting to more. And a day in my life, well, simply put, I try to talk to as many people as possible about meetings and events revenue management. That's what I do. So that could be other technology providers that could be other technology providers, that could be consultants, that could be people at hotels, anyone that wants to hear or that wants to talk about meetings and events revenue optimization. I'm happy to speak with them. And I do that for many reasons. First of all, because meetings and events revenue management, as we just said also, it's a newer discipline. So the more you talk about it, the more it becomes a common knowledge, so to speak, to also actively optimize meetings and events. Of course, secondly, I have these conversations to see if getting to more and a hotel would be a good match, if they would benefit from working with us. And thirdly, well, it's a buzzword, so here we go, but we work in an agile way, which means that our solution is under constant development, and we don't want to develop any features or any functionalities that don't make sense for the users. So I speak with, well, people are end users, and to see what they are missing, what we could improve, and then I give that feedback to the people here responsible for product development.
So ample, focus on different topics, and yeah, it keeps you absolutely busy. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, so now, I often wish there were more hours in a day.
Now, focusing on the industry, talking about, like, for example, meeting and events revenue is a kind of a new discipline, technology, which, the industry has never been famous for being leading the technology investment, let's put it like that. How do you see that from the events point of view, the investment in technology from the hospitality industry?
Yeah, I would say the industry has been lagging behind a bit, probably. It's an industry that's rather change and risk averse. So not too fond of big changes or taking a risk left or right. But over the course of the past year, I have seen that change. In many ways, we were presented with a blank canvas and people are reevaluating everything that they are doing. They're taking not one, but 2 or 3 steps back. And they are now putting in that thought exercise, maybe because it's absolutely necessary. So I'd say the difficult times have inspired people to be more up for taking a risk or having some changes, probably because it's absolutely necessary to do it right now.
So they may have realized that they need it and now is the right time, no better time.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And I think, from my opinion, and I want to get yours as well, obviously, the same happens with talent, investing in talent. That, again, it hasn't been an industry that's put a lot of effort or money into developing talent, and might be now a time to change that. How do you view that?
Yeah, absolutely. I read this quote somewhere, and I think it's a good one, and that is, what happens if we invest in training and then the employee leaves the company? That's always something that people are worried about. And the answer was, what happens if you don't and they stay? In the end, you want the right person at the right job. And speaking from my point of view, it's very, how do we say this, motivating to be trained, to be challenged, and to feel that you're constantly improving yourself. So if you want to keep talent, then it's a great idea to invest in training and to give everyone the feeling that they matter as a person, and it's a personal development journey rather than someone just filling time between 9 to 5. And especially hospitality, it's a passion, right? So the people that are there, they are there because they want to be there. So let's give everyone the best experience, not just the guests, but also people working in hotels.
Nice one. Getting some keywords in there because I want to ask you about the profile, but you're giving me a few ones already: hard work, passion. So I'm getting them already kind of answered. Good. Now focusing again back to events revenue. Hotels, especially the ones focusing on congresses and summits, they might be facing some challenging time now because of the restrictions on travel. So what will be the 2-3 things you would recommend that kind of business coming out of the pandemic when it comes to managing the revenue of the meetings and events?
Yeah, I think I can split it up in 3 parts again. So what I would do is, first and foremost, you want to stand out from the crowd when returning and when setting up for success. So try to be as customer-centric as you can be. And it sounds logical, but if you look at how meetings and events is structured or how it is sold, in many ways you would discover that it's not the case. If I'm a meetings organizer, quite often I will be asked 3 questions. The first one would be, do I want a full day or half a day? What are my lunch preferences? Do I want a sandwich lunch or something 2-course? And then in what sort of shape do I want my room set up? Should it be theater, class, or something else? That's not really that customer centric. Like, maybe let's start from the beginning and ask this person, like, what are you trying to achieve with this meeting? What is your end goal? And then discuss, what do we need to achieve that goal? How can we help you achieve the goal that you have for this meeting? And then you will see that it's going to be probably not just about that lunch or that coffee break, but it's going to be something completely else. So have a discussion with your meeting planners and organizers and make sure that you are the one that best fits the new needs. You'll see also different meeting segments, I think, come to your hotel. It has been a disruptive time. You'll see many companies that are reevaluating if they should keep their offices, if their employees should actually come back to the office, or if they are always gonna have people in the office, some people working from home, but these people will always need places to meet. be that person or be that place that they go to for a meeting. So I would say that's my first one, like stand out from the crowd and offer something that best fits the needs of your potential customers. Hunt for innovation also. Now, secondly, it's more about revenue management, but make them an offer they can't refuse. So you already know this from hotel rooms revenue management, but be very dynamic with both your pricing and also your inventory management. I think pre-pandemic, even when demand was very high, you saw many hotels working in a first come, first serve way when it comes to meetings and events. So if I'm the first one to send an inquiry, that would 100% guarantee that I would be the one hosting a meeting on that specific date. And I think even more interesting than with hotel rooms revenue management, in meetings and events, you have large revenues attached to one inquiry. So accepting an event of 2,000 euros, a smaller meeting maybe, could block your inventory and could prevent you from hosting a multi-day conference that could bring in 50,000 euros. So be very dynamic about when to sell what, and well, lead time will be an interesting parameter to investigate your demand base. Yeah, just be strategic about it and not just first come, first serve. So that would be the second one. And the third one is again more focusing on how your customers experience what you do, but it is to remove friction. Sometimes if I try to book a meeting room in a hotel, it's difficult to book that meeting room. It's not as frictionless as reserving a hotel room. I think it should be the other way around. It should be difficult not to book the meeting, not the other way around. And that could be with maybe a small booking engine on your website or instant RFP, or you're of course free to choose how you want to do that, but make it easier for people to book something, especially if it's smaller gatherings, if it's just 1 or 2 hours, if it's very last minute. That should be easy. I think that are my 3 most important takeaways for recovery.
Which is very, very useful information. As you're saying, it should be easy. It means that it usually is not, or in many cases not, which is a shame. You know, I really like what you're saying, like be client-centric. And if you focus on them, then you'll understand, you feed their needs better, and then the events will be a success. Yeah, but sometimes.
Yeah. And I think in another interesting change that we're seeing now is that we see the rise of OTA-like platforms also for meetings and events. There are a couple of more stronger players now that are arising, and that makes this a very crucial time for meetings and events. Begin 2000, the OTAs took off by a storm, and knowing what we know now, make a very thoughtful decision about where to put your inventory and the path you want to walk with meetings and events.
True. Good point. And then linking, you were saying that it can be a massive percentage of the revenue of the hotel, which links to total revenue. A lot of people talking about total revenue, ancillary gets in there, fine, but who is really applying total revenue? I mean, is that really a thing? Is this a buzzword? How do you see it from the events point of view?
Yeah, total revenue management. There's been a lot of talk about total revenue management, but sometimes it stops with talk. So that's not great. And I think, coming from an unbiased by experience point of view, if you take a couple of steps back, like what is a hotel? What are we doing? A hotel, it's a bunch of square meters, right? You have a surface and you try to sell it in the most profitable way. So why would you only optimize the square meters where there happens to be a bed? I think if you look at it from that point of view, it makes sense to do meetings and events revenue management, ancillary revenue management. Just try to be, again, also customer-centric in your revenue management and apply total revenue management. I think, yeah, looking at total revenue, there are no arguments not to do it.
I love that sentence. It's like, why are you only optimizing the space where there's a bed? there is no answer. That is like, okay, got it.
Yeah, it's silly.
It's true. No, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, but still, a lot of people do that. It's a shame.
Yes.
They don't focus on.
Yeah, I think I always get worried when I hear someone say, "Oh, but that's how we've always done things." Like once you hear that sentence, it is time to start running or to ring an alarm.
True. So you're Dutch, and in the Netherlands, you have a great hospitality schools. Now is a challenging time for the industry. So what would be your advice, with your experience already, on people who are studying now? It's like, well, is that a good time to go into hospitality? First question, I'd like you to answer.
Yes, it is a good time to go in hospitality. I think we've had a tough year. We really had a tough year, and it wasn't the most fun year to be in hospitality. It was very challenging. We've had some setbacks, but well, joining the industry right now, I think you're actually joining at probably the most interesting time, because well, we've been talking about like another roaring 20s, and I really believe that's going to happen. We have pent-up demand. People are looking forward to traveling. You'll see change. You'll see more customer centricity, and probably also, I think, more chances for young people joining this industry to gain responsibilities. So yes, it's definitely a good time to join the industry, and you'll learn a lot.
Okay. And the last question I was saying before, is like, what kind of skills do you think people need to get into hospitality? But you kind of answered already. You told me before, hard work, team spirit, passion. That's things that you've learned, that you experienced because you have them yourself. What else could be needed?
I think the number one most important, it's not really a skill, I think, but you need to love it. If you don't love hospitality, then it's not going to work. You need to love it in order to do it. You need to be you need to be a people person, probably, and you need to, well, enjoy creating experiences and to making something memorable. But yeah, that would be the most important thing. And I would also recommend, like, from as soon as possible, try and get a taste of it. Don't wait for your graduation day to do your first shift in a hotel or in a restaurant. Knock on some doors, be enthusiastic or excited to start working, and I guarantee someone will hire you. You will get some first mentors, some first experiences, and you'll notice straight away if, like me, and you as well, probably, Pablo, if you fall in love with it, or if it's maybe nothing for you. There's no in between, I think. You're either made for this or not at all.
You run away very quick, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been here for 20 years, so I guess.
It's no running
like
for you.
Now, yeah. No, it's too late already.
Yeah.
All right. Good. I mean, these are the questions that I had for you. Doing brilliant. I think the highlight, I really love that sentence. Like, why are you only optimizing the space where you have for the bed? That's amazing, that sentence, to put in bold letters there, because it is true. And it can be much more done with the spaces of the hotel. In the case of you guys, maximizing the meeting and events.
Yeah, and I think especially when recovering from the current crisis, everyone has seen that bottom line: revenue is revenue. Doesn't matter where it originates from. Revenue is revenue.
Good. We'll leave that as a last sentence. Revenue is revenue. Niki, thanks very much for your time again. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully we'll talk soon.
It was lovely being here, Pablo. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
That was all for now. Hope you found it useful. Remember that you have more information on our website, www.torresconsulting.co.uk, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Twitter. Stay well. Goodbye for now.